Okay, another Democrat politician is going to prison. This is Kelvin Atkinson, who was the former Senate Majority Leader in Nevada, pictured here at court. This is him just before then. He had resigned in March, and then we're just learning now, this article from yesterday, saying that he is going to prison. Kelvin Atkinson misused hundreds of thousands of dollars in campaign funds. Now, they just give a bit of some background on Kelvin Atkinson. He's a Democrat from Nevada, became the first Black LGBTQ state Senate majority leader in the nation this year. That was just before criminal charges led to his resignation. He reflected on his life, he said, and offered an apology Thursday before he was sentenced to prison for misusing these campaign funds. They break down what he spent this money on, including $75,000 in donor money to his campaign, ended up going towards opening a nightclub as well. That was just one of the misused funds that he had in this case. They also note here, just from March, when he did actually step down before having this actual sentence this week laid out, when he did resign just in March, they said that he gave an apology, essentially immediately said that he was guilty on the Senate floor session, resigning from his office. This was in early March. Atkinson threw tears at the time. He was crying while telling fellow lawmakers that federal investigators had discovered he had misappropriated campaign funds for personal use and that he would plead guilty, he said back in March. So we knew that there would be some kind of sentence. He did right away plead guilty to the charges at the time. So we've been waiting for exactly what the sentence is going to be. Just this week now, saying that he is getting this prison sentence. They give some more details. Kelvin Atkinson, former state senator, the former Democrat majority leader of the state Senate in Nevada, was sentenced Thursday to more than 2 years in federal prison. Atkinson is now 50 years old. He misused, they say, hundreds of thousands of dollars of campaign donations for his personal use. He pleaded guilty back in March, a short while after learning his sentence this week. Atkinson walked out of the federal courthouse surrounded by supporters. Pulled up a couple other pictures from court as well. 45 minutes earlier, the federal judge had sentenced him to this 27-month sentence in prison. He's also getting a $250,000 fine, and he is required to have 3 years of supervised release. Resigned March 5th from the state Senate, capping a 15-year career in Carson City that saw him in both chambers. A quote here reads, "Regretfully," this is what he said in response. This was his apology. He said, "Regretfully, it has been discovered that I have used campaign funds for personal use. Thus, I will be taking full responsibility for that and will be pleading guilty for those actions when the time comes." That's what he said during the resignation. His guilty plea came a week later, and on Thursday, most recent update, he's finally now learning the price he will pay for his actions. This prison sentence. Another quote from a U.S. attorney in the case says, "My reaction was justice was done. Fraud like this goes to the heart of the democratic process. The courts take very seriously, as well as the Department of Justice, frauds that violate the public trust." Meanwhile, however, just a side note, a lot of people are probably questioning what kind of sentence this is exactly, probably interpreting this as a pretty light sentence. Even the judge makes some other comments. So for them to say, on one hand, I really don't buy the what the attorneys and even the judge is saying that he's been made an example out of. It's a relatively light sentence for them to be able to say that, really. But nonetheless, a couple other comments just on what they're saying about the sentence. Federal government had asked the federal judge to impose a sentence of 30 months Atkinson's attorney, Richard Wright, citing his client's efforts to help individuals in the community, had asked for probation. This is something that's, again, just not to go on a tangent, but this is commonly brought up, and lawyers that are defending lawmakers in these corruption cases are trying to use this as if it's a mitigating factor that he was had this responsibility over the community. If anything, then that should warrant a harsher sentence. The fact that they were trusted with that role in the community, it shouldn't give them a lighter sentence, but looks like that's almost what the lawyers are arguing in this case. Say the government says Atkinson used the money to start a business and live what prosecutors called a lavish lifestyle. Atkinson told the court, quote, "I wanted to apologize once again," said his actions were regrettable and unfortunate. From the bench, before he imposed the sentence, the judge had said, "This is an unhappy day. We trusted you as a public servant," he said to Atkinson. That's what the judge said. The sentence culminates a stunning fall for a former legislative leader, and it could have been worse, says the U.S. attorney. Once Mr. Atkinson was approached by law enforcement, he took responsibility early and pleaded guilty. So maybe this is a justification for the sentence, that he right away did plead guilty, saying that it was lighter than it could have been because of that. The sentence, quote here says, "The sentence imposed by the court today took that into account," that he pleaded guilty early on, the fact that he admitted his crime early in the investigation stage, saying that officials and the public need to pay attention to what happened. Of course, it sends a message of deterrence. This is, again, what I'm speaking to. I'm not really sure that it does with this kind of sentence. Definitely could have and likely should have been a worse sentence than what actually happened. So for them to say it's a deterrence, I'm not so sure, but they're saying it does. They're claiming that it sends a message of deterrence, but as I said, the vast majority of public officials are already serving with integrity and honesty. Again, not so sure. Follow this channel. There's probably something almost daily, a case like this, but he's claiming that he's trying to claim that the vast majority of public officials are serving with integrity and honesty. And so for those that are contemplating losing their way or contemplating that path, this is a signal to them. That's what they're saying. Anyway, Atkinson is scheduled to report to a federal prison yet to be determined on Friday, October 18th. Former senator is a first-time offender. Has promised the judge he will not break the law again. "You won't find me back in your courtroom," he said. Interesting case, how these funds were actually used. Another article here from today, just again responding to this, but they break down a little bit further what happened to these campaign funds exactly. Again, noting that he's going to have to surrender by October 18th. Senior U.S. District Judge also ordered him to pay a fine of $250,000 and this 3-year supervision. He's forced to resign barely 1 month after the 2019 legislature convened. He pleaded guilty the following week on March 11th to federal wire fraud, admitting to misusing $250,000 in campaign funds. Breaking it down here, they say from 2010 through 2017, according to the charges, Atkinson spent $75,000 in donor money to open a nightclub, $20,000 to lease a Jaguar SUV, at least $100,000 to pay off credit cards, and $8,600 to repay a personal loan. In a tearful speech he gave, he was crying when he resigned to the Senate floor in March. We looked at that quote. They have another comment, though, from Atkinson's attorney, arguing that the embezzlement started with good intentions but snowballed. He says, this is Atkinson's attorney saying, quote, "Things started and they may have been benevolent," Wright said, but, quote, "he was borrowing or using funds for a Robin Hood-esque intention." Questioning basically every quote coming from Atkinson's attorney here, obviously, but interesting case. So this is finally resolved with a sentence. Some people, again, probably questioning why is it only 27 months? Could have been a lot worse. Likely should have, again. So let me know what you think. I'm sure a lot of people do think that at least, but tell me what you think about the judge's comments, the attorney's comments about that sentence as well, just the case in general. Some other resignations going on in Nevada recently as well. So I'm not sure if there's any other connections. I didn't dig too deeply into that in this video, but if you want to do some of your own research, just look into officials resigning in Nevada lately. That's not the only one. So possibly some other stuff going on in that area. Let me know what you think. Please leave a comment. Thanks for liking the videos, subscribing to the channel. Check your notifications because YouTube is not letting people know about these videos. I do have a link in the video description to patreon.com/realityreader where you can support the channel. Even $1 or $2 makes a huge difference over there. Also a link to paypal.me/realityreader where you can support the channel directly there. Let me know what you think and I will follow up soon. Thanks, everyone.